There are two known sleeping demons, Incubus and Succubus. You awaken to hear your name being called, and then suddenly there's something on you. Maybe it's pulling air out of your lungs or having its way with you sexually. You can't scream, you can't speak, you can't move. Or is that just a sleeping disorder? Hi, I'm Lady T of Heaven and Earth Connect. Have you ever awakened because you heard something call your name, or you felt something in your room? Maybe you woke up to all of a sudden this sound in your ear or a breath on your neck. Have you ever had that experience? A lot of people do. And we have a lot of stories since the beginning of time where people are telling their situations of demons or witches or aliens. But science calls it sleep paralysis. Your brain is much more active when you are asleep than when you're awake. Can you believe that? And because of that, your body is paralyzed when you fall asleep. If it didn't, you would act out your dream. So there are times when you are suddenly awakened in your sleep and you will find yourself unable to move and unable to speak because you're physically paralyzed, even though consciously, mentally, you are awake. It's a very scary situation. I've had it happen to me twice in my life. One time I was in college, I was sleeping in my dorm room, and I opened my eyes to see outside of the window these beings, these things. They were poking at me, they were pointing at me, they were mocking me, they were trying to get in. And I couldn't quite see them because my eyes were fluttering. I could hear myself breathing and panicking. And then when I jolted myself awake, they were gone. Another time it happened to me, and this time it wasn't that scary. I was visiting my parents and I awakened to these three little girls in the room. I saw them as angels. They were very ghost-like. You almost couldn't even see their faces. I know they had on beige and browns, and they had long braids hanging in front of their faces, and they were three stair-step sizes. And so when I jolted myself awake at that point, I wasn't afraid. I had a lot to accomplish that particular day, so I chose to see that as the angels have visited me. So science has given us the answer to this based on the studies that have been done around the world in sleep labs. They know exactly what happens in your brain when you go into that realm phase of sleep, when you're actually falling asleep, and what happens when you're jolted out of that stage. So there are no demons in your room. They're not taking over your body. Although it feels that way, calm down. Science has given us the answer. And yet, one thing we know, and that is science doesn't have all of the answers, right? So the great thing about science is that it has pulled us away from the dark ages of superstitions and fears and has brought us into the world of technology and medicine. Yay! But it can't answer everything. And there are some people who are dealing with principalities and powers and principles in different dimensions that show up at night and will attack them. There was one lady who told me, she said, Tisha, I am not asleep because I don't sleep. I know when it happens. I see them floating from the ceiling and they fall down on me. One guy told me, he said, it is not sleep paralysis. He said, I am wide awake when it happens. It's been happening since I was a child, and usually what happens, they come in, there's a knock, and then immediately they're in the room, they're on my chest. Sometimes they kiss me, sometimes I wake up and I have bruises on my body and I'm sore. He said, it is not sleep paralysis. This is real. So many people they can't even sleep. Now, science would say that they're suffering from hallucinations because of their sleep insomnia. Who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? I know that science cannot explain everything. And if that is you, if you're dealing with that, then let me say this. In this particular dimension, you have all spiritual authority to tell them to leave you alone, to be gone, do not return again. There is a universal law called the law of intervention, and basically what that means is you do not have the right to enter into another dimension and disturb those entities in that dimension. You can't, as humans, we can't enter into the spirit world and disturb them, and they can't enter into our world and disturb us. And every dimension understands this law, and they have to abide by it. So if you find that there are entities entering into this third dimension and they are bothering you, disturbing you, in your sovereignty in this plane, on this plane, you have the right to tell them to leave you alone. As a matter of fact, Master Teacher Jesus Christ taught us how to do that. And he says if you stand under his authority, you have all power and authority because he gives it to you, unless you've summoned them. Now, if you've summoned them, that's a different situation. You can summon demons or angels through prayer, through drugs, alcohol, through submitting yourself to them with certain rituals or certain perverse behaviors. Perhaps you're reaping the consequences of a family member that dabbled in spirituality and maybe made a contract with certain spiritual entities, and now it's on you. But even with that, even if that's the situation, you still have the right to say, I am no longer, the contract is null and void as far as I'm concerned, because you are a sovereign being. You may have to do a ritual of cutting the cords to release yourself from the contract, from the generational curses, or close up the portals. And then you have to make sure you keep yourself spiritually pure so that you don't open those portals again, right? And woe unto the person who opens that portal again, because when you do, then they will come in even 7 times more. But that's a whole different conversation. That's a different video. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked. Most of us are not dealing with the demons and entities. We're simply experiencing sleep paralysis. Remember, it's not a demon. Even though it feels like it, there's not a demon in your room. You can calm yourself. That'll minimize your panic. Calm yourself and remind yourself, okay, I am wide awake. I'm just paralyzed at the moment, and even try to enjoy it. This is really freaky. This is really weird while you have the flickering eyes and you're trying to breathe at the same time. Remind yourself, okay, this is just unconscious, but I'm still asleep. Okay, this is good. I'm going to wake up now, and then slowly come out of it. So hopefully that has helped you. Hopefully that serves you. Click like and subscribe, and make sure you get notifications for the next time I put out one of these videos. Also, I have a podcast entitled, I Believe in Jesus, But, where I answer questions for millennials who have left traditional religion and they want to remain spiritual. If you find that you are one of those where you have that traditional programming of a religion, and yet it doesn't quite line up with what you know is to be true, you want to check out the podcast. If you have questions, you want to send them to me. I want to answer them. You can always go to heavenandearthconnect.com, and there you can listen to the podcast. There you can also download my free ebook. You can also set up an appointment for dream interpretations. If you have a dream that you've been struggling with, a reoccurring dream, a weird dream, contact me. Get on my schedule, and I will love to hear you and hear your dream. This is Lady T. I am here to help you wake up, tap in, and tune out.